In this episode, we will be covering how strong is the Dragon Ball Godzilla. Akira Toriyama needs no introduction. The creator of Dragon Ball, inspires generations to come, was a huge Godzilla fan, apparently even making a cameo in the 1984 film The Return of Godzilla. A lot of his earlier works had numerous Godzilla cameos throughout it, such as Wonder Island, The Adventures of Tong Po, and Dr. Slump. Dr. Slump is the most notable amount of appearances of Godzilla, as in one of the episodes, the main character Arale gives another character with a baby eye patch wearing Godzilla. Godzilla appears in the flesh in numerous episodes, mainly as a background character, along with other monster parodies such as Gamera and Ultraman. The world of Dr. Slump is crazy. All the characters have like Toon Force gag power, with the Ultraman 7 stand-in basically changing the time of day by hitting the ground with a hammer. Such a feat has been calculated to be roughly between large planet to dwarf star level. On top of this, there are many examples of characters straight up destroying or altering the starry sky, including the sun, who is a sentient character in this universe. Being able to just completely alter the entire sky and stars within it is a multi-solar system level feat, and characters just casually perform this on a daily basis. Even one part where they all just straight up beat up the sun. Since Godzilla and Gamera seem to have a rivalry with the Ultraman 7 character, I think it's safe to assume that these three characters are all probably comparable in strength to one another, which means that Godzilla should also, at the very least, be able to be large planet to dwarf star level, assuming he could survive a hit from Ultraman 7's hammer. Though given how many characters can perform the same multi-solar system level feats, I wouldn't put it past this version of Godzilla to also be capable of doing the same feats as well. There's also the numerous examples of Arale herself breaking reality. There's even one episode in the anime where some guy basically recreates the final fight between Goku and Majin Buu near the end of Dragon Ball Z in the basement of his house, and the fight basically blows up the entire pocket dimension, and the characters are perfectly fine, proving that they may theoretically be universe level. Don't even get me started on all the different scenes where they're able to alter the story itself, or beat up the creator of the entire universe, Akira Toriyama, who is a character that actually appears in the manga. Though I should point out there was the one time where Arale tried to stop a meteor and was unable to do so with her punches, but was able to destroy it with some help as well as some energy blast. This does kind of bring into question how much of the character's powers are dependent on gag powers and how strong they are physically. Sort of like if you took the Toon Force out of the Toon, how strong would the Toon be without the Force? Of course, seeing as how the sun itself is a character that can perform multi-solar system level feats, maybe this meteor, for whatever reason, was just super durable. Now, why do I keep spending all this time talking about Dr. Slump and Arale when this isn't even Dragon Ball, which we're here to talk about? Well, that's because Dr. Slump is actually canon to Dragon Ball. Let me explain. In the original Dragon Ball series, both the anime and the manga has a part in the story during the Red Ribbon Army arc, where the two of the characters basically wind up at Penguin Village, the setting of the Dr. Slump universe, and Goku actually meets Arale in question. This is a bit curious, mainly due to all the incidents that happen later in the Dragon Ball series, such as the Earth getting destroyed. I feel like that would not happen if Arale was present. Of course, for all we know, she could just be floating aimlessly, confused out in space, wondering what the heck just happened. I definitely know Arale would not have let Goku Black slide, although it'd be funny to think that Goku Black and Zamasu just stay away from Penguin Village for whatever reason. No, this is also curious, because the Dragon Ball universe has their own year calendar, like age 760-something, whereas the Dr. Slump universe actually uses the more traditional timetables, such as like AD and BC, like us. This is me stretching a bit, but it's possible that the world of Dr. Slump is its own pocket dimension that both exists, but also doesn't exist at the same time in the Dragon Ball universe. Like it's its own little self-contained universe. Kind of think of it like the plot of WandaVision, where it's just its own reality existing within the space of a single town. That's the best way I can think of to describe the Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball connection. Especially because many years later, there's that one episode of Dragon Ball Super where Arale shows up and Goku actually remembers her, and the two have a fight, and Arale's just perfectly fine fighting Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who, if you've ever watched Dragon Ball Super, is strong enough to almost destroy the universe with his punches alone. And this was a weaker Goku using his previous Super Saiyan God form. And Arale is able to match him in a beam clash. And Arale requests for him to try with 100 times more power, which actually freaks Goku himself out, one who normally loves a strong opponent. Even more scary when you consider that Arale was already at least multi-solar system level before the events of the original Dragon Ball story itself. Since apparently the ending of Dr. Slump, a lot of the characters are like older or in like new positions of their life, and in the original Dragon Ball Dr. Slump crossover chapter and anime episode, they're not at that point yet, which means the vast majority of Dr. Slump must happen before that point in the Dragon Ball crossover story, which means while Goku was only like, I don't know, roughly building level, Arale was already destroying multiple solar systems, which is still a feat higher than anything Goku's ever done in Dragon Ball Z. So, Arale during her story is already stronger than End of Z Goku before his story even really starts. Basically, what I'm getting down to is that if Arale exists in the Dragon Ball universe, then so does the Dr. Slump version of Godzilla, who should be comparable to all the characters living around him, which would make them probably multi-solar system level at the very least. However, if that doesn't sit well for you, fret not, because there's actually another Godzilla that has only appeared in the Dragon Ball universe. Yeah. What, there's already two Godzillas in Dr. Slump? Is there not really a stretch to assume there could be a third one? In the very second episode of the original Dragon Ball anime, a short shot of Godzilla flashes on the TV screen. This one looks significantly different in design from the Dr. Slump Godzilla, and appears a lot meaner and taller too. But he's not the only monster that shows up in the Dragon Ball series. There's also numerous scenes of Baragon popping up, even fighting in one of the martial arts tournaments. King Ghidorah shows up in the background of one of the tournaments, and we even get a shot of Rodan in one of the episodes near the end of the original series. And even Gamera shows up, a little baby Gamera that Master Roshi just calls upon. It's the little turtle thing he stands on that lets him fly around. It even pops up again in Dragon Ball Super, and this one exists in both the anime and the manga. While I can't get the screenshot of it, apparently in the episode Goku's Revenge in the original Dragon Ball series, in the Japanese dub of the episode, one of the characters note that Godzilla might be the one going around killing King Piccolo's minions after they all get word that Goku killed Tambourine. At this point, everyone believed Goku was dead. So when they find out that someone took out Tambourine, the character Mai speculates that it might be Godzilla going around taking them all out. If you thought the one shot of Godzilla showing up on the TV screen could have just simply been a movie playing on the TV, this is probably one of the biggest pieces of evidence, besides the fact that all the other Godzilla monsters exist in the flesh in the universe, actually exist in the Dragon Ball universe. I don't think Mai was just making a joke comment. I think she was making a serious question on whether it is actually Godzilla taking these guys out or not. According to the Daizenshuu 7, Goku's power level at this time was around 180, so Godzilla's power level must also be around 180, since he'd have to be at least that strong to take out Tambourine. King Piccolo's power level is around 260, and with that power, he can wipe out a city with just a wave of his hand, going off the manga, of course, and should be superior to Master Roshi, who blew up the moon with a Kamehameha blast. Now, I can't be perfectly certain if that was a normal Kamehameha blast, because according to the same Daizenshuu 7 magazine, the one specifically used by Master Roshi to blow up the moon was called the Moon-Destroying Kamehameha, so there is a possibility that it might just have some special properties that allow it to destroy the moon specifically. Of course, this theory is sort of blown out by the fact that Piccolo Jr., near the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, also blows up the moon with a regular ki blast, and his power level is only 408. I talk a lot more about this stuff in my Power Levels Explained video, so I'm going to try and give a brief summary of it. Basically, the Kamehameha is a technique that has at least twice the power of the person firing it. And Master Roshi's power level is anywhere between like the 130s to the 180s. He does have a more powerful buff form, which is probably above 180, but we don't know exactly how strong it is. Master Roshi used this bulked up form to extinguish the fire encircling a large mountain, while also blowing up the mountain itself in the process accidentally. Later on in Dragon Ball Z, Kid Gokan, with his Rage boost, taking his power level up between 700 to like 13,000, is able to destroy a mountain, and yes, it is referred to as a mountain. So either the moon is only like mountain level in the Dragon Ball universe, or, once again, power levels are bullcrap. To make matters worse, the Versus Wiki just retconned the power of a lot of Dragon Ball Z characters, putting Raditz already at large planet level, due to him scaling above Piccolo, who can just casually blow up the moon with a regular ki blast. I had a theory that this might actually be Piccolo's Demon Explosive Wave, which is basically his second strongest attack at the time, behind his Special Beam Cannon, which is only roughly 3 times his current power level. So if we were going with the most lowball theory that it was his second strongest attack, it'd probably only be, like, at most, roughly twice his power level, meaning that power levels in the hundreds can still blow up the moon. And King Piccolo said that he could blow up a section, and that 43 sections made up the Earth. Meaning, if we took King Piccolo's power level of 260 and multiplied it by 43, we get the hypothetical power level needed to destroy the Earth. Although, whether he was referring to blowing up the planet, or just destroying the surface, I'm not fully sure, but that would give us a power level of roughly 11,000, which is close to Vegeta's 18,000. The first confirmed Planet Buster in the Dragon Ball series. Later on in the Namek Saga, we see the Frieza soldier henchmen, who don't seem threatened by the Namekians' power level of 1,000, heavily implying that the Frieza soldier henchman on average is probably somewhere above 1,000. However, they get their butts beat by the warrior Namekians, whose true power is 3,000, which means that the average Frieza soldier's power level must be somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000. Why am I going on a tangent about the power level of the average Frieza soldier henchman? Well, because many years later after this part, in the Dragon Ball Z movie Resurrection of F from 2015, one of the characters, Jocko, jumps into the ocean. A lot of the Frieza soldiers fire down at him, and this basically causes Godzilla to awaken and swallow a bunch of them. And while this one does have lips, unlike the original one cited all the way back in the original Dragon Ball Episode 2, they do pretty much look almost exactly the same with the exception of the lips. And again, this is Toriyama we're talking about. I'm pretty sure this was him intending to have this be Godzilla. Especially since, like I said, it looks very similar to that original anime Godzilla look from way back before. So whatever destructive feats Raditz is capable of, the Frieza soldiers should also be capable of, and by extension Godzilla should also be capable of. So if Piccolo can blow up the moon with his measly 408 power level, and Raditz is around 1500 going off the Daizenshu, and Godzilla can just gobble up a whole bunch of these Frieza soldiers at once. If they were stronger, they just blast their way out. He did, after all, survive multiple hits from the Frieza soldier ki blasters, which can kill people whose power levels are 1000 or lower. So I think it's safe to say at the very least this version of Godzilla's power level is well over 1000. Whether that's large planet level or whatever power scale level Raditz was at before suddenly being boosted by the Versus Wiki up to large planet, your guess is as good as mine. There's also a few other images I found of Godzilla online. I have no idea what these are from. I'm not sure if they're from Dr. Slump or some other Akira Toriyama work, but I just thought I'd throw these on here. This one looks pretty accurate to what Godzilla would probably look like if he actually was in Dragon Ball proper, and not just some simple inspired parody design of him. This leaves us with two main Godzillas to talk about. The one from Dr. Slump, and the one from Dragon Ball. While not specifically named Godzilla, of course, again, it's probably intended to be Godzilla, especially because one of the characters does refer to him by name. There's also another scene in Dragon Ball Z where the characters are summoning Purunga, and one of the characters questions if it's Godzilla. And again, I'm pretty sure they're not just referring to like a fictional character in the Dragon Ball universe, since we have seen other Godzilla monsters actually existing in the Dragon Ball universe, at least in the anime. If we're specifically referring to Godzilla's power level of 180, making him relative to Kid Goku, he might be roughly moon level or anywhere below city level, since King Piccolo can wipe out a city with a wave of his hand. Although the city itself, while called a city, looks a heck of a lot smaller than, say, New York City or Tokyo. It's probably at best just a small city, or even more like just a town, to be honest. Kid Goku at the start of the original Dragon Ball has a power level of 10 according to the Daizenshu 7, and he's roughly small building level based off his first couple strength feats in the series. As a Great Ape, he's 10 times stronger, and that elevates him to large building level with a power level of 100. So we know that 100 is large building level, and 260 is maybe small city to possibly just town level. So 180's in between that, so Godzilla's physically anywhere between large building to maybe town level. So maybe like multi-city block to small town level, if we're specifically referring to how strong he'd be with a power level of 180. In conclusion, the Dr. Slump version of Godzilla might actually be one of the, if not the most powerful version of Godzilla ever, just simply because he has the powers of Toon Force and Gag on his side, along with every other character living in the world of Dr. Slump. Physically, he should at the very least be dwarf star or large planet level, seeing as how he should be comparable to his fellow monster friends who have done the same feats. But going based off of simply the one specific to Dragon Ball, this one is, again, probably around maybe multi-city block to small town level, if comparing him to King Piccolo's power level of 260. Again, it's the drawback of introducing power levels after original Dragon Ball, where the two characters start off roughly around 400, and then you gotta cram all the power levels for all the entire original series below that. Yeah, not exactly leaving a lot of room to work with. I'm sorry if analyzing the power of these two hypothetical Godzillas was mostly 90% speculation, but like I said, we can really only compare them based off the worlds they live in, and the feats of all the other characters living around them are capable of. But if it makes you feel better, this video was posted on April Fool's Day, so don't take it too seriously. This is a world, after all, ruled by a character called King Furry, where dinosaurs are still running around and stuff. The god of destruction's a talking purple cat man, and there is literally a character called Granola. But fret not, my dear viewers, For in our next video, we will be journeying back to the Heisei era Godzilla to talk about an alternate timeline that diverts after the events of Godzilla vs. Mothra, the Godzilla Kodansha manga. How strong is this alternate version of the Heisei era Godzilla? Tune in to find out, folks. Take care.